All right, yes. I just wanted to welcome Mr. Lowe coming and talking to us about what's flying above McIntosh County. We are filming this. It is going to go on our Facebook and Instagram pages. There are a few people who couldn't make it tonight who wanted to hear it. So thank y'all for coming. Thank you, Mr. Lowe, for doing this. While you're here, check out the library, sign up for a library card, ask about our services. All right, I turn it over to you, sir.
More chairs. The advertisement for this talk that had me here is James Lucky Lowe. I only had one person in my life ever call me James. I was born on Friday 13th, so my grandmother started calling me Lucky. It stuck with me all my life. Even a lot of my business was done with Lucky. Now I'm going to talk about UFOs, and I'm not a scientist. I'm not an astronomer. I'm not a Harvard grad. Actually, I'm a high school dropout. Of course, you're never going to mount anything as a high school dropout. But I've done very well in my life, had a good time. I'm a very hard-headed person. If I have an interest in something or I want to do something, I don't talk about it for months or years and never do it. If I want to do it, I have an interest, I start right then. So in 1967, at Fort Gordon, Georgia, in Augusta, I had my first UFO sighting. I was 18 years old in basic training in Augusta. And you had the old long wooden barracks back then. And you had the bunks that sit along the side here, and you had the bunks that sit along the side here. And the drill sergeants come in before you get up, and they're beating on the trash can lids and they're yelling and screaming. They don't give you time to dress and make your bunk and do everything. It's a program. Then they can turn your foot locker upside down, they can snatch your bed off, they can yell, they can touch you. And so we got smart the last couple of weeks. We'd get up before they would come in and we would dress in the dark. If you dress in the dark, you get a head start. So I sat on my foot locker one morning, still dark, the lights weren't on in the barracks. The drill sergeant hadn't turned them on. He's the only one to turn them on. And I was sitting there. And I remember this guy's name, probably the only name I remember in basic, but he had a crazy name, Master Stefano. That's his name, Master Stefano. And they were on the other side of the barracks. It was. And I was 18. I knew about UFOs, but I had no interest in UFOs whatsoever at that time. And he started yelling, "There's a UFO, there's a UFO." And of course, the windows all along that side of the barracks and windows along this side. We didn't have air conditioning barracks back then. And so all of us guys on this side run across and looked out the window. And we were the barracks neighboring the street, run right by us. And the next block over was this big flying saucer. And the lights are going blink, 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 blink around the ring like this, and a dome on the top of it. So myself and about 8 or 10 other guys run out the back of the barracks in the physical training big field area. We run out there, and boy, we were pointing and yelling and jumping up and down. We were all excited because we saw a UFO. So I knew at 18, I knew that UFOs were real. Now, I didn't know what their business was. I didn't know what was in it, but I knew that was real. I'm going to jump to the second sighting real quick, and then I get it back in our sky. The second sighting I had was at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I took basic at Augusta, and I went over to Fort Sill, Oklahoma to Fort Sill for my AIT, Advanced Individual Training. And I went to LPC school, Leadership Preparation Course. It's a preschool for OCS. And if you do good in LPC school, they'll recommend you might go to OCS. So I come out of LPC school, come right in there, and I got to wear armed band of an E6 sergeant, which I was a private at that time, but if I was in charge at Holton, I'd march them to the training areas. I'd march them to chow in the morning and everything. I can sing cadence, but I don't speak cadence like that. So we went to the mess hall one morning. This is before daylight also, to the mess hall. And at the mess hall, back then, I don't know about now, you got one door going in and you have a sergeant that would stand here. And as the tables would come clear, he'd say the next 8 or 10. And we were rows of guys here. And of course, in the military, you're standing what it is, like parade rescue night. And then you call and you file them off and go in. Well, I mean, what exactly like an egg, exactly like an egg, but maybe as big as a foot-flagging beetle, come down right over the roof of the nest on it. And it was illuminated, but not with a light like lights. We had, like this light shines light all around. It's a different light. But just like the egg, but the big foot-flagging beetle. And we were all looking at them. I think there was at least 40 or 60 guys out in line. So the sergeant went in and he got the officers out. The officers, had their paper. And they all come. Everybody was looking up at that thing. And after, 30, 45 seconds, it just rose up. It didn't zoom off, but it just rose up till we couldn't see it no more. It's a big sighting in the military.
You can't keep it quiet.
Well, ma'am, you keep everything quiet in military training. So, both of them were the talk of the base.
Yeah.
But I often wondered if Augusta had anything in the newspaper about this.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Augusta did. All right. Yes, ma'am.
How did the first one leave your son? How did it?
It went out over the treetop levels and we couldn't see it anymore.
Okay.
It did not zoom off, but it had the lights just blinking off and over around like this and had a dome on top of it. And I mean, it was in the next block over. I'm not talking about lights way up in the sky. It was very close sighted. I'm getting back to Josh County now. I'm going to go to Miss Skipper, which become a good friend of mine because of her UFO sighting. I've had, you can see my UFO club card here on the bottom of this. This was in 1996, Southeast Georgia UFO Club of Glenn and neighboring counties. UFO sightings and earthly phenomena. That's my phone number. Now, we would have meetings at the Dairy Queen on Downtown Avenue. We would eat chocolate nut sundaes and banana splits and talk about UFOs. The first meeting I had 7 people come. The second meeting I had 3 people come. The third meeting I had 2 people come. And the 2 stayed with me right on for years. The 2 stayed. Bill and Nick were carny at Simon. They were Greek. They were a Greek family. And this article here, which was in the Brunswick News, we're standing out the field. We had a news reporter go out with us at the. There's players here. We had a news reporter go out with us on this occasion. This is Glenn County. I better get back in McIntosh County.
Yeah.
I'd like to get off in Glenn County one. Let's stay in McIntosh County. Okay, stay on this Skipper. Okay, Skipper Seafood was a seafood house at that time, not the restaurant. And I went in there one day. I know what I'm saying. I had my club cards. And I went in and I had Mr. Skipper was behind the counter and I handed him one of those cards and stuck my hand out, shook his hand. Sir, I'm Lucky Lowe and I investigate UFOs. And he called Miss Skipper. I don't know her first name. Somebody said her Patty. He started yelling, Patty, come here. She was in the office. So he said, look, he said, you ought to talk to this man. So that's the way I got Miss Skipper's story. They had just built a house over on Black Island. May still be in the family, I don't know. She told me, she said, we had only been moved in that house, she said, for 4 or 5 months over on Black Island. And she said, I woke up one night, and she said, the bedroom was lit up. But she said, it wasn't like the ordinary lights. And she said, I thought, what? This gets daylight, And she said, I could see the light was kind of brighter at the window. And she said, I walked over and pulled the curtains back and looked down, and she said, behind the house, which was on Mars behind the house, she said, there was a great big crowd glowing sitting behind the house. And she said, now, if some of you knew Miss Skipper, very talkative lady. So let me get this point across. She wasn't quiet and shy, very talkative. She said, I went over and saw that thing. And she said, Lucky, she said, I went back over and got in the bed and went back to sleep. She said, I'd have never done that. No way. She said, I'd been on the phone with all my friends and all my family. She said, I'd been so excited I couldn't stand it. But she said, I got in the bed. She said, I've been studying a little of this UFO phenomenon. She said, since this happened to me. She said, do you believe? She said, I believe maybe they could be. I said, Miss Skipper, I said, if you went and you know your personality and you went back and got in bed and went back to sleep, I said, they sedated you. And I said, yes, ma'am, like they did. I'll tell y'all something about UFOs. If they come and sit down behind your house, in front of your house, over your house, whatever it is, I'm not saying, they're not there for a cup of coffee. They have an agenda, period. Okay. They're serious people. They have an agenda. So they're there for a reason. And generally there, if you'll study some of the abduction stuff, I hate to tell people off, but a lot of times it's tied to the abductions. And a lot of times that's generational. Miss Skipper's children now, my family, I doubt seriously that it's from Skipper's because it's a generational thing. So very big story in Miss Skipper Secret, which is deceased now. And then let's drop down to two-way fish camp. Okay. Wayne, Mr. Culpepper used to own two-way fish camp way back, Mr. Culpepper. Matter of fact, when I found the little cannon, I put the little cannon on two-way fish camp docks. I'm probably the only man that ever put a cannon on the docks two-way. But anyway, Mr. Culpepper was there. And Wayne put in the boats. Wayne also had a story. He told me he was coming out of Brunswick, the two-way one morning. And he said, as I was driving toward two-way in Darien, he said, after I passed Hopple Plantation down there, he said, out over the marsh, he said, there was a big glowing something sitting out over the marsh there also. Wayne two-way. And then Mr. Templeton that lived the two-way became a real good friend. Larry Templeton, some of y'all might have known. He was a bass fishing expert. A lot of newspaper articles of Mr. Templeton. He has some records on bass fishing and all. And I met him. I don't know how I met him, but he lives in a house that's up on stilts, and we'd sit under his house and talk. He always had a cigar. Sit up under his house and talk. He always get us a big glass of iced tea. So he said, you know, Lucky, he said, I was in the military. He said, I was aircraft crash control. He said, any aircraft that would go down, he said, we were called out. We were sent to the crash site immediately. He said, I know everything that flight was. He said, that's my job in the military. He said, we're going to have a barbecue here one evening. He said, my wife told me to go to Darien, get some meat for a barbecue. And he said, as I was driving toward Darien, he said, when I got over to Champney and Butler Island Bridge, he said, not at the base of the Darien River Bridge, but back maybe just a quarter of a mile from the Darien River Bridge, he said, I seen the police lights flashing. And he said, cars pulled up on both sides of the road. And he said, I thought, well, there must be an accident. And he said, the policeman was standing in the middle of the road. He said, I pulled up. I said, officer, I said, accident? I didn't see anything. He said, no. But he said, there's something strange out over the marsh. So he got, I know this fella too. So he said he got out. He said the people were out. I was looking out over the marsh, and Larry Templeton said he got out and he looked over and he said, over the marsh, he said, just right out there, he said, was a big glowing light. He said, I couldn't see a structure, but a big glowing light. And he said, by the time I got there and got out, he said that it didn't sit there but about maybe 20 or 30 seconds. And he said it rose up, and he said, not in a tremendous speed, but he said it rose right above the Martian centers. It was going out of sight right there. So a lot of sightings here there in Georgia. That fills up my two-way sightings.
What's the time frame on what year
All of them 66 and 67 was when I was getting these stories, 66 and 67. And then let's jump back right here in town in Darien. I hand out a lot of cards, and I don't know how people even got my cards. It amazes me sometimes. I got a call one night, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, a lady crying on the phone. She said she had two little girls. And she said, Mr. Lowe, she said, I'm looking out my back window. She said, it's a big UFO right over behind my house, right over the yard. She said, my kids, she said, they're scared to death. She said, I'm scared to death. She said, what should I do? I said, ma'am, call the police. And I said, before the police get there, the UFO will leave. That's not nice there. And then at the power line crossings, the big, the big power lines, multi-power lines, as they come through McIntosh. A lady called me again one night, about 11 o'clock at night. She was crying. She said her two grown girls, she said, were really hysterical. She said that they had stopped, they had went to drive under power lines, and she said there was a big UFO sitting over power lines. And they're known to draw energy from the power lines. They say that about UFOs. I'm not sure. But anyway, she said that they were about 3 miles from home. And she said that UFO stayed right behind the car and followed them all the way to the house. And she said they were scared to death. So a lot of strange sightings. A lot of them are never told, because if you have a sighting, you don't just walk down the street and the next person you meet say, hey, I saw a UFO. Especially back then, you were condemned about it. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you something too. Y'all listen to this real close. For 60 years, us conspiracy theories said UFOs are real. The government said no. NASA said no. Us conspiracy theorists, we won because they are real, right? We were the ones that was correct, not the government and not NASA. They are real. The government says they will now.
Oh, they were lying.
Yeah, they were lying. They were lying to us. Okay, on that past Townsend, very big sighting that past Townsend, the Dean family. Russell Dean, their son is still there, but Mr. and Miss Dean are dead. They had 2 houses up on through Townsend, across the 2 bridges, the Sapelo River and whatever. And the 2 houses sit on the left-hand side. They were only 2 houses. There was some stuff across the street, but they were only 2 houses. And the way I got these stories is strange, but I had these UFO club cards too, and I had a little S10 Nissan pickup truck, 4-cylinder, cheap on gas. So I would drive all out through the county roads. I just run around. Sometimes I'd get lost, and I'd have to ask somebody how to get back to Brunswick, just driving. And if I'd see anybody in the yard, I'd stop and I'd hand them a card and I'd stay on the hand. I say, hello, sir. I'm Lucky Lowe. I investigate UFOs. So anything strange. I never had nobody say nothing bad to me at all. Always. And I made some very good friends like that. So I passed the Dean family up here, and they were sitting in a swing on their front porch. And I drove right on past, and I looked over there and seen them sitting in a swing. I went up, turned around, and come back, and they had a circle drive. The one house was her, dad, and mom. The other house was Mr. and Miss Dean. I don't know their first names because I was calling that they were the Mormon family. And I went up there and get the card, introduced myself. He said, hurry, sir. I said, well, let's tell him the story. He said that one evening, but he said it was getting dark. He said, I was standing out talking to my father-in-law between 2000. And he said, we were having a conversation. And he said, I noticed something over me. He said, I looked, and he said, a big triangle craft. He said, was falling out of the sky. He said, it wasn't flying. He said, it was falling and firing and laughing all out around. He said, I could hear the metal popping on it. It was so hot. And he said, I knew that it was going to kill us. Right there, wipe out both houses and kill us. But he said, I reached out and grabbed my father off by the arm. He said, even if you know you're going to die, you're going to run. He said, I was going to dig and run. And he said, just about the time I grabbed it, he said, it stopped. And he said, it just moved out real slow over the treetop levels where we couldn't see it anymore. He said, the next night, he said there was either 1 or 2 helicopters all over our neighborhood, all around here. He said, for hours. So, Mr. and Miss D. Now, I'll tell you another strange story. I get off the UFO just a second. The Dean family up there. Behind the same family now with the triangle craft father, there was a railroad, parallel 17. Right there behind the Dean house. That railroad hadn't had a train on it for who knows how many years. Okay, the tracks were not even there anymore. But Mr. and Miss Dean and Russell Dean, their son now, and Russell Dean's daughter, says that when it's foggy, sometimes at night, or there's a little drizzling rain at night, that you can hear the train whistle blowing. We're up and down Mr. and Miss Dean told me that, and then off to the Philippines 25 years. And when I come back, I find Russell Dean, their son, and him and his daughter tell me the same thing. So you hear that thing? Go. Hey, that's ghost strike, yes, sir. So I jumped off the UFO. UFO said a little bit. Yes, the ghost strike. So McIntosh County and all counties, not just McIntosh counties. If people would tell their stories, there'd be so many stories of UFOs. But like I said, people, in fact, at this time frame when I was gathering these stories, you could have been very criticized about you talking about UFOs. So now I got lots of stories on that. Jessup, little town of Jessup had some crazy sightings. All around had a lot of sightings. I give my cards to all the fire departments, all the police departments. I have them, the Darien Sheriff, Darien Police now. And I got, by handing them out like that, I had Jessup come to me one evening and said there was a huge light over Jessup, Georgia. There, just hello, man. There's one chick. Oh, you're so lucky. So I went up to Jessup. We're a little bit out of my job, and it was just a big glowing light. No one really did anything about it. It was gone before I got there. But over in Folkestone, I think the town by Folkestone is not the where you go across into Florida on this side, but the other crossing I think is Folkestone. I got a call from the police department there one day about UFO sighting, so I over there, and they had a really big sighting. They gave me back then. They give you phone numbers of people. They ain't nobody give you nobody's phone number no more. You know, things have changed now. But they give me the phone number to the man and woman that had the sighting, big triangle craft. That I'll explain it to you. Had the sighting, and then the man and woman gave me the phone number of another man at a hunting club with his son that were looking at the same craft some miles away. So she said they were driving along. She said we can get out and drive in the evening lots of times, just have something to do, enjoy the night, enjoy the evening. And see we're driving along. I get this about this triangle craft also. She said, I seen a shooting star. She said, a shooting star. I said, I'm like, oh, look. And she said, it stopped. And she said, it was a big triangle craft with lights at each point of it. And she said, it followed us for some miles. She said, just right off. She said, I guess it was following us, so we could look right out the window, watch it. She said, it scared us a little bit. She said, it was beautiful also. And then a guy at a hunting club camp, is the way he explained it to me, him and his son was on hunting property, hunting club, and they had a camp or cottage or something. And he said they were there, and he said we had binoculars, and he said we watched the same triangle craft that the man and woman was seeing. So these, like I told y'all before, these UFOs, if they're in your area, these UFOs have an agenda. They don't just mess around, Like I said, they're not at your house for a cup of coffee. They have an agenda, and the agenda, I hate to say it, but the agenda seems to be mostly the abduction scenario, where they're affected. They seem to have the ability, I talked about the extraterrestrials a little bit now. They seem to have the ability. I get back a little bit in myself now that I'm getting on paranormal a little bit. When I was 27 years old, my third eye and my crown chakra opened. So I've had many experiences within the spirit and the extraterrestrials. I've had contacts with the Greys, I've had contacts with the reptilians, and I've had contacts with the mantis. So, this happens to the third eye. With the third eye, when the third eye is open, you're going to experience a lot of things that you don't experience in the physical world, because you can get out of body. You got a body through the crown chakra. Soul will go out through the crown chakra. Some of these lower bodies, like the astral mental etheric, might go out with solar plexus or whatever, but the soul will go out through the crown chakra. So I get a little on the extraterrestrials now. Just before I moved to the Philippines, I was in a house over on the Jessup Highway, little one bedroom house, and I had an incantator friend. I've had several spirit friends, but I have an incantator friend. The ladies are in Cantata, the men are in Cantos. They're the big people, very beautiful people. And my Cantata friend is Princess Mahina. And I'm a long time diver, very long time diver. And I've been in a couple of situations to where pretty much absolutely I'd be dead right now. I would drown to dead for sure if it wasn't for some help from the spirit world. And this was Princess Mahina helped me. So I was at this house and I had wrote Princess Mahina a letter. And I had told her, I said, thank you so much for helping me. I said, I appreciate you being in my life. You're always welcome to be in my life. Da, 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 da. And this house had hardwood floors. And I put it on the dresser when I went to bed that night. I'm getting to the graves now. I put it on the dresser when I went to bed. And I went to bed that night, and that leather come off that dresser and hit that hardwood floor and made a little tick sound. And when it hit, I threw my head to the side and I could look right through the wall because my third eye was open. My third eye's not open all the time, don't misunderstand me. But I could look right through the wall and here come 4 graves across the yard. So I got up. What? I saw graves. I was a bit excited, you know. And about 2 weeks later, in the same house, I come home from work and I was tired. I was a tree surgeon for many years, very hard work. I come in, I laid on the sofa and laid my head back on the sofa. And all of a sudden, I come out of the body of my crown chakra. And I come out in a 3-stage thing, which is I've never done before, but it was like zoom, zoom, zoom that I come out. And when I come out, I was standing in the living room right in the floor, and here stood the graves in front of me. And I was scared a little bit, but I'm not so scared because I've experienced so much of this stuff, but I was scared a little bit. And they were standing in front of me, so I hit it to one. And when I hit it to one, boom, they vanished. Now I want to tell you all about the graves. The graves are like little children, you know. They're so skinny and they're so little and they're so frail. Never give in to a grave. Never give in to your fear. If you lock up in fear, that's what they use against you. Okay? If an extraterrestrial comes into your room, a demonic spirit, a ghost or whatever, fight it. If you lock up in fear, they got you. They got you right there. So, especially the little graves, there's nothing to them. They're so little and so free. So, that's my advice on the graves. Now, I've had an experience also with the mantis. You know, there's also apparently a big praying mantis looking being that's apparently very spiritual, very powerful, whatever. I had an experience with the mantis out the also. And there was a big mantis. I don't think his dog was selling, but he was big and a little bit smaller was standing beside me. And the experience just started. They were right in front of me. And boy, I thought to turn and run. That was my first thing. So, oh, I could run. And then I thought, no, I can handle this. I can handle it. So I'm not going to run. Anytime you have an experience, if you turn and run or stop that experience, you lose the knowledge beyond right when you stop it. If you can, go on with it, because then you get the complete story. But it takes a long time. It takes a long time to get to the point of where you conquer that fear. And then I had an experience also, several experiences with the reptilians. And these had kind of a big like nose. You know, this one particular, and again out the body, and they were chasing me. And I come around a big boulder, and I slid down, and I slid in the mud and the water. And as I slid down, they come around the boulder, and I grabbed a big old handful of mud, and I just strung it right in his face. And I was thinking my body, it was over. So
I said, what happened with the mantis too?
no, man, the mantis, when I said, no, I'm not going to run, I can handle this, I'm back in the box. I don't know what happened after that point. I really don't know what happened after that point. Do I have any questions?
Are we just assuming that, these entities are dangerous, or is that just the sense that you had when you were open? I'm trying to
I can
understand.
tell you this, they've been here forever. They've been here for thousands of years. Okay, so if they were gonna take over the earth or do anything really detrimental, they waited a long time. I don't know. Although they do the abduction things, and that's not too nice, I'm sure. but they've been here forever, practically. So that's the way I view it. I don't think they're going to just, although right now, this 3-eye atlas thing is out there. I see a lot of stuff on the computer, but you can't believe what's on the computer anymore. You really can't, you know, I mean, it's crazy. Used to on the internet, you could believe most of what was there, but not now. So I don't know, you know, I try to, this 3-eye atlas, I've been watching a little bit, and I'm trying to find the really truth about it, but I don't even believe NASA.
They're covering, I think they're covering, they cover it up.
They cover up, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, the
That's
government,
why I don't like it.
the government does a lot of that.
Yeah.
So, but they have a reason. I can see that during the Roswell incident right after World War II, I think they had a good reason to maybe even cover up Roswell at that time. But look, it's time to, and the government has told now.
Yeah.
You know,
It's gradually
yes,
coming out.
that's right. It's gradually coming out, and they're telling the truth about it.
Yeah.
What military covered up with the Boston case.
It's just a crazy.
It's crazy, you know, it's something like that to actually happen, you know.
Well, but it's admitting that
It's unbelievable.
they don't know, and they don't know how to control it, and they
That's
don't
That's right. Yeah.
and they have structure or something.
I think the technology, the extraterrestrial,
Good.
is so far ahead of
Oh,
the
yeah.
U.S. government, us, so far ahead until
That's where we got computers and stuff,
I think
aliens.
probably everything. Yes.
Yeah.
The information, the information.
Yes, man. You know, if we go back, when Alexander the Great conquered the city of Tyre, he said there was as of flying shields in the air.
Way back.
Well, you know, what was as of a flying shield? You know, that's a pretty good description of a UFO. You know, Ezekiel saw that big craft in the Bible. You know, the Bible says,
I had a talk article about it in the magazine about the Ezekiel thing, but I put up into a magazine.
yes, yeah. Well, that's, you don't have to go back in magazine, that's in the Bible.
It mentions everything of the craft and all the book. So
Yes, they did.
article.
Oh, he told a lot about it. And then also Jehovah says, and yeah, I did fly upon the wind and fired out as of arrows and discomforted them. So flying up on the wind, maybe that's craft. Flying out, fired out as of arrows, maybe that was a rocket, maybe that was a laser, that was the sun. So a lot of stuff, a lot of old stuff. The extraterrestrials been here, I think forever. I'm not saying they created this, but you know, Stitchin tells about these beings way back, you know, read some of these books about it. Maybe all that's true too. I don't know.
What do you think about the sheriff, the guys who was there, on that?
Well, Van Dyke covered a lot of stuff. Yeah, he's the one that started it all. He was a great writer, you know, Chariots of the Gods. It did become a bestseller all over the world, not just in the U.S.
First I got into UFOs. This is one of the first books I was reading. This is the Chariots of the
Yes,
Gods.
sir.
It's a great.
Yes, sir. And that was a long time ago too.
Yeah.
Way back, yeah.
But he was a very brilliant man. I've had a lot of people fuss at me and say, why don't you write a book about some of your stuff, especially about paranormal stuff?
Good.
Yeah. I've tried 2 or 3 times, but writer's block is real. I can write 3 or 4 pages. I get all excited and write, and then all of a sudden, boom, I can't write another word.
Don't ask you if there had missing time within your episode.
No, ma'am, I have not had. No, ma'am, I surely have not. But that's that goes along with all
A
of it.
lot of missing time people have with it.
I have not had any missing time.
They have to be hypnotized and all to bring all
that back.
All back, yeah.
A lot of my experiences is through the third eye. And the third eye is not just the eye. I don't know why they call it that. When your third eye is open, you can hear, you can smell, you can feel. It's everything, not just your eye, you know. And most of it is in the other dimension other than the physical. In the Philippines, I had a very strange experience in the Philippines. I suppose this was a UFO. Now, I don't know. But I'm very spiritual, but I don't go to church at all. But in the Philippines, there was a priestess there, a lady named Mama Ramey, that had a church. It's a very interesting story. Mama Ramey was probably the only connected. She was connected. Really. I've had a lot of healers in the Philippines. They call them Abalarians, healers. They tell me I can do this, I can do that, I can do, but they were somebody's proof out of me, except my Moraine. But she told me one day I was sitting in the church there, listening to Father Rucky when the priest did the sermon, and he was talking in Ilocano. I couldn't understand a word. So one of the sisters come and tapped me on the shoulder. She said, "Brother Lucky, Mama wants to see you." She had her living quarters at the back of the church. So she told me I had several, most of us Latin words, power words we call them, that can invoke some things. So Mama Randy said, "Brother, step off the porch." She had a little target, not big. You said several to to step off the porch and look at the sun and say your words. I said, "Okay, Mom." And the sun was already up. It was bright. I turned this way. The sun was already up. It was bright. I was squinching, saying my final words, looking at things. And all of a sudden, the entire glare of the sun went away. Just this like this, wow, no glare whatsoever. And a big golden disc on its side, not sitting, big golden disc on its side with perforated holes all around the edge like this that come in my view of it. And these things last about 3 or 4 seconds. And then it just closed up. And the sun's back. So I turned around and I said, "Mama, what was that?" So that's the power of God. So she showed me something. I remember Raymond Riddle. She said the church people there, they would have about as many people as y'all in the church. It's a pretty good sized church, but it didn't fill up, but about as many people as y'all. And one of the favorite stories that the people would tell me about Mama Rainey, about some of her powers, the 3 kings or the 3 wise men that come to Jesus at his birth in the Bible, were 3 of Mama Rainey's friends, good friends. And in the Philippines, most of the roofs are tin roofs, and no asbestos tin roofs and that. And they said that the 3 kings would come to visit. Said they all rode horses. They said you could hear on the roof, you hear that crackling, the horses up on the roof. They said everybody go out of the church and look up, and nobody could see nothing. But Mama Rainey would come out, she'd stand there and talk to her because it was third eye. Now, I'll tell you something about the third eye and the big disc. We can put the big disc in US 30 perforated holes. Okay, this is what happens. I saw that plain this day. Okay. If the glare of the sun had went away, even for 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, it would have been in the news all over Asia. Oh, the glare of the sun went away. Where did the sun go? So nobody's thought of but me. That's the third eye. Same way with Fatima. Bernadette. And 3 children of Fatima saw with Mama Mary. And Fatima, when the Mama Mary presented the miracle at Fatima, there was 60,000 people. 60,000. What's no cars back then? This is in the late 1800s. Yeah, all these people had to walk to this grotto with the cave where Mama Mary came to. 60,000 people. There's a photograph, one good photograph of that. It was pouring down rain. Everybody had umbrellas. All the umbrellas was black back then. Not colored. all black umbrellas. And, when she appeared, they said the sun comes down out of the sky and danced around and radiated out beams. Some said it was as of a silver disc. All kinds of strange things. The sun. But all of Europe didn't see that. Only the Fatima people saw it. So it wasn't a physical event. It's a third eye. All these UFO events can be third eye events also. Nobody will know unless you know the third eye. Everybody would think they were sick and physical. Same way with the spirits in the spirit world. So much of that's third eye. It's not really physical. Any more questions?
What about the physical pain that you felt that one time in that column of Church Lane bit?
The column,
The column you had in Dairy News on 25th of June this year.
okay, that was on, let's see, I tried to do a ghost story for the,
It was falling and flying.
falling and flying. I want to do a talk on that. On the falling, why are we falling dreams? Or why are we flying dreams?
No.
I know. I wouldn't disagree. Y'all know somebody, Kathleen at the Dairy News, of course. I read a nice article on ghosts, and I can go real in depth on ghosts. I'm talking about ghost story Only in the house. I can tell you why you become a ghost, what a life of a ghost is like, and you really go in ghost. So I wrote this up right here, typed it up, and hit Kelly. She said, "Oh, yeah, I like this. This is my first story, what they're saying. I like this. I'm going to print this." So I go in 3 or 4 days later, and of course, her desk, you can see there at the door. And I walk in the door, she stands up, and she says, "It's your fault." And points at me like that. And I go, "What did I do? What did I do?" She said, she comes, "Come in here, sit down, I will tell you something." I said, "All right." So I didn't know her very well again, you know. She said, my blanks that they print the papers out of, she said, "I went in my office, come here with my blanks like I do all the time." She said, "I sit the blanks in the corner of my desk." And she said, "I went out and talked to my secretary, the son come back." She said, "The blanks was gone." She said, "Well, where's the blanks?" And she asked secretary, she said, "Did I take the blanks in my office?" She said, "Yes." She said, "For several hours," she said, "I went out to my car," and she said, "I knew the blanks were not in my car." And she said, "We tore down the office upside down." She said, "I got nervous. I thought, what am I going to do? I got the print. I got the stories." And she said, "I come back in the office," and she said, "There's the blanks." She said, "It was your ghost." I said, "Look at what my ghost." Now, y'all can, she tells that story around to some different people. She verifies that story's real, you know. So, yes, I want to do a talk on nightmares and night terrors in children or adults. I've helped some children with nightmares and night terrors, okay, even over the internet I have. I want to do a talk on that, and I want to do a talk on ghosts, and I want to do a talk on get more into the third underground charter, and I want to do a talk on the anything with the spirit realm.
How about exorcism and possession?
Possession. Well, I have exercised 1, 2, 3, 4 possessed people in the Philippines. We had there's a church there named the Fisheries. They got big cement fish vats out there, and they teach fish agriculture at this school, the fishery high school. And one day, a girl in one of the classes, we're getting off the UFO. This is one day, a girl in one of the classes saw an old lady. I don't have they come to the door. And this girl just went crazy. She got possessed and fell out on the floor. Okay. Over the next 7 days or 8 days or something, 20 girls, all girls, because the spirit would choose a girl generally to possess, because a girl is not as strong as a man to possess. It's all physical. 20 girls become possessed. They could shut down the school. They shut down the whole entire school. I went and talked to the principal, and I told him, I said, "Sir," I said, "I think I can help you." So I told him a bit about myself and this, that, and the other. And I said, "Friday, I want to come here." I said, "I come here Friday at midnight, and I'll walk these school grounds. I'll talk to these spirits and see what I can get done." So before that Friday, we got big Catholic church, big coral blocks, the whole church did a big coral block. The church is more than 300 years old. You know, they've had the Philippines quite late. So I come into the market. My wife told me, she called me Daddy. "Oh, Daddy," she said, "they got possessions in the church." So we went over there, and 4 girls laying out screaming. All of them had to be held down. One of them was on the altar, this Catholic church. One of them was on the altar, and 4 or 5 people was holding her down. So I went up to her and knelt down beside her, and I told the spirit, I said, "Look," I said, "you got to go from here." I said, "This ain't going to work." I said, "Leave this girl alone." I said, "You don't leave this girl alone." I said, "I'm going to call somebody who's going to really mess you up." The girl got up. She was all right. So I went to the second one. And I got the second one where there was 2 other healers talking, helping the other 2 girls. So I didn't interfere. So possession, very, very real. I mean, they can become so strong, you know, because it's not the physical people, it's the spirit within the people. And it can be demonic, or it can be a ghost, perhaps extraterrestrial, I don't know, but it can definitely be a demonic ghost. Now, what happened at the school is they had cut a big tree down. And in this tree were so many houses of these spirits. In the spirit world, a tree can be a spirit's house. just like y'all's houses, okay, in their world. And when a spirit would go up a tree, if your third eye's open, and a ghost or a spirit would go up a tree to get to their house, they won't climb a tree like we do. They'll walk up the trunk of the tree. So it's very, very strange that dimensional worlds as compared to physical worlds.
So again, he like stood up to him.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Leave that girl.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I have give me a minute. Sometimes church minute talk about it. I have several ascended masters that through my 49 years of being open I've been to. The main one is the Master Jesus and two others. And through 49 years of developing my spirituality, and all paranormal is spiritual, I've had some connections. I always claim I don't have any power myself. I can do some healings also. I claim I don't have any powers myself, but I had I can send the text message, okay? I can say, I'm here, this person having this problem. I can send that text message, will you help this person? And then it's up to them as to whether they help or not. I don't believe I can do either. I believe I'm just a physical person. But I've built in that realm for a long time, so it's very interesting in the world besides the physical world. But it's taxing on you a bit because some people have problems dealing with the physical world. I deal with physical and the interdimensional world. So, if the demonic, if you advance spiritually, the demonic do not like that. They'll try to give you problems. But I have zero fear of any demonic entity whatsoever because I'm more powerful than any of them. They can come anytime they want to, but they're scared of me. I'm not scared of them because I've got 49 years to get into that point. So, interesting. Anyway, yes, ma'am.
So back to the UFOs
Yes,
over
ma'am.
McIntosh County. So you told the stories of a number of people. What kind of sort of correlation between those sightings did you put together in your mind? What did that tell you as far as the triangular shape and the agenda
It's
that
all about abductions. Whatever friend they come in, it's all about abductions. Like I said, they don't land in your backyard for no reason. They have an agenda with you. And that's probably been going on a long time, actually. Probably been going on a long time.
has anybody ever told you if they except for that one lady?
Now, I have Lady in Jessup. Her husband worked at the big prison out of Jessup. My aunt told me they lived in Jessup. Denise and I think his name was James. I forget their last name right now. So I went up and my aunt introduced me to them, and they had a double wide mobile home. Nice landscape, a nice double wide. They put a lot of work in. And I went in and she said, Mr. Lowe, she said, first thing, she said, about 2 weeks before we saw the crash, she said, I woke up one morning out on our front porch going into the mobile home. She said, I said, my nightgown. She said, I got no idea how I got out there, what was going on. And she said, then a couple of weeks after that, she said, me and my son were sitting watching TV. And she said, come right in the trailer. And she said, when we went out and looked at the trailer, and she said, the big UFO sitting right in our backyard. And now they in the neighborhood. She said, all the dogs was going crazy. All of them. She said, we went to the back door of the trailer and cracked the back door of the trailer and watched it. And she said, right after we started watching, said it just rose up and went off. But she said, I believe that they had something to do with me being on the porch in my nightgown. And her son was about 12 years old, if the best I remember. I mean, I felt sorry for him and I told the line, really. But he looked at me and said, Mr. Lowe, he said, you don't think they got me, dude? I said, I don't think they probably understood. She was scared. He was scared. But just all the time, Franklin County, just all the counties around UFOs. It's just amazing. People just aren't aware.
What do you think about cattle UFOs?
You know, sir, the only thing I run into on crop circles is on the other side of Brunswick one time. I can get this where I was there so long ago. I pulled into a place there, 2 or 3 families down there. I seen a man out working in the garden. I handed the card, shook his hand. And he said, yeah, it's the I want to show you stuff. It's the only crop circle I haven't seen. So we walked over and they was where it had so whatever planted. Not as big as this room, maybe a third as big as room, but perfect circle, a perfect circle, you know. And you say, we did not put that there, but I come out one morning, there it was.
I've seen some crop size, mark, but what's about it, you know? This, it's, how did they get developed and how did
And they're all over the world too.
I know
I don't know anything much about crop circle. I've never run into a cattle mutilation. You had the molten howls, we studied that, but no, we don't.
What are they trying to do? They're trying to make a with a human being.
They say that they take a gene out of the cow or something. I don't know. They'll take the eyes out. The tongue, and what have you.
All the blood.
Yes, all the blood. So
Yeah, I just don't
I don't.
figure it out at all. Yeah.
Nobody knows everything about the extraterrestrials, but the extraterrestrials. And I think there's many races of them, and I think probably got different agendas. Each race.
Other plants that they go to, other civilizations that need kind of blood or alcohol.
I think they do, man. I think absolutely. I think they come here and get water. There's stories of them getting over big lakes and the lakes being let down after they leave.
Yeah.
You know, and who knows?
UFOs too, there.
Now I'm big in the news that the underwater ones, and I heard just not long ago that they're traveling at nearly the speed of sound underwater. I had never heard that fast. But they're not really pushing through the water. They got a field around them, I'm sure. You know, they can do that. Same way with out of body travel. When you go out of body through your crown chakra here, you travel at the speed of thought. You don't travel at the speed of a rocket, nothing else at the speed of thought.
You said that word again.
Crown chakra. Your chakra, your crown, the top of your head. That's the highest chakra. You got chakras all along your body. And
Spell that word.
CHARKA. CHARKA, chakra.
And they're all along.
Yes, ma'am. This comes from Asia, you know. In India, Asia, the yogis, the Hindus, the Buddhists, all the people have been telling about the chakras and out of body traveling and third eye for thousands of years. Thousands of years. Now it's in the Bible too. It's in the Bible. Jesus said, if thine eye be single, thine entire body shall be full of light. If thine eye be single, the third eye is called all kinds of eye of wisdom, the eye of horse, the eye of knowledge. It's called all kinds of things all in one. He said, if thine eye be single, thy entire body shall be full of light. That's enlightenment. He was talking about the third eye. In the third eye second, you are enlightened. You have the ability to perceive and gain some knowledge that the ordinary people were not at the third eye knowledge. So that's what he says about it. And then in the Bible, one of the disciples says, I knew a man called into the third heaven. Y'all might be familiar. I knew a man called up into the third heaven. If he was of the body or not of the body, I don't know. Only God knows. So that man was out of the body. That disciple was saying, I don't know if he was in the body, went up in the body or out of the body. So they knew in the Bible about Jesus. What would you think Jesus don't know about? He don't know about this or he don't know about that? Sure he would know. Yes, ma'am.
So you have been a diver for many years.
Yes,
Did
ma'am.
you have any underwater experiences with?
Actually, ghosts.
Right.
Yes, there's ghosts, absolutely ghosts underwater. I've had several ghost experiences underwater. You know, I have even now, and I love it, you know, because I've been in it so long. Even now, several times a month at night. I live out at the Cat Head Creek campgrounds. I got an RV out there. And a lot of times when I sleep at night, the spirits will come along and take my toe now. Shake my toe like this. So, you know, the bottom of the foot and all this. I wake up and say, hey, what's going on? You know, I say, thank you for coming visiting a little while. You know, so I can feel them and I can hear them. Sometimes I have them say, "Lucky." Sometimes I say, "I love you." And I have all kinds of things said to me. Sometimes children, sometimes men, sometimes women, whoever they are in that particular realm, they are aware that I can sense them. So, they acknowledge that, and maybe play a little bit with me or whatever. But I thought when I got older, I thought it might would all stop. But I'm 76 years old now, and it's still going on. And man, I hope it don't never stop. I mean, I got a wife and son I love to death, but I'd be lonely if it went for my spirit. I admire them, and I don't deny them to nobody.
Have you ever seen Alti?
Alti, no. Maybe. I was handed out a two-way. This was back. I handed out a two-way in a 28.6, 28.5 foot Thompson Crown with a 454 Oldsmobile engine in it. We were going to dive a wreck behind Sackville Island, and I was headed out, and I had just got out on the Omaha River and turned left going up the intercoastal, and it looked like a big truck tank, perfectly round, best I could tell, and it rose up this high out of the water. A big truck tank come up out of the water, and I seen it, and I pulled back on the throttle on the boat. Old Thompson craft like won't run too fast anyway. I pulled back on the throttles and I watched it, and it just went back down. I didn't see no head, I didn't see no tail, I didn't see. But there was a lady in Darien. She's probably been deceased. She was an elderly lady back before I went to the Philippines. She gathered all the Mahaha stories. Maybe some of y'all know her. She gathered them all. And she said, what surprises me, she said, maybe a local would know about it and tell me a story, but she says sometimes a tourist here, somebody from out of state, don't know anything about it, have a sighting and be referred to me.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And that lady's stories are probably still available somewhere, her family. I had to get with Kathleen sometime, or maybe. I bet Kathleen knows who she is.
And this is still living if you're talking about.
Could be her. Okay.
She wrote the Omaha book.
Well, need to talk to her one day. I'll say. So, and that two-way fish camp, I tell y'all something too. At Mud Camp Tardies, this guy just cooks real good breakfast steak.
Real good. Everything.
See, I've been in the plug, so maybe I get a free one next weekend.
You want anything in the single leaf?
Yeah. So, any other particular stories? I don't know if we're over time or.
When was the last sighting around here that you know of?
We got 5 minutes. Well, I've just been back for about 5 months. I was in the Philippines 25 years. So I've been away from here a long time. And I'm not writing and researching sightings anymore. I don't know if you can go up in anybody's yard and talk to them anymore without getting shot. That's around 25 years ago. People were friendly.
Drew saw one last week.
Who did?
Drew knows.
Really?
Yeah, he took a video.
Well, I'll have to talk to them.
It's over. It was going back down 17, leaving the fish stand, looking towards St. Simon's.
There was
When I
a
can
list
get
of
my
them
free
about
breakfast, you can refer me.
Are you going to talk about the dream about falling, or is that another time?
I'd like to do that at another time. I really know why that is. I know why. That all ties into spirituality. That is a spiritual thing.
And flying.
How about your Princess Mahina and the shark story?
I didn't tell them about Princess Mahina.
Yeah, but the one about you couldn't go in the water.
That's not UFO, but man, that's a wild story.
Explain to them you don't drink, cuss, smoke pot, take pills.
I've never used any drugs, and I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I was born that way, okay? Because I have a lot of past lives that going through the spirituality, and it works out that way. I didn't have to deal with that stuff this time. I didn't have to go through that. As you go through it in incarnations, and it gives you this problem and that trouble and this problem, then when you reincarnate again, and maybe the alcohol or the drugs are here, you think, man, I'm doing that stuff. That's the way it happens. That's the way it happens. So I'm telling you a little bit about Princess Mahina. But Johnny wants me to tell, we got 5 minutes. Okay, I'll tell this because it's a very strange story. I had a bottle place, not far from where I found the cannon. I had a bottle place. We got 5 more minutes. I want to hear this story.
All right.
So I had a bottle place where I was finding nice black glass bottles. I'm talking about mid 1700s, late 1700s, nice black glass bottles. And I've been diving that bottle spot for about 2 years. And every time I leave this bottle place and go back, I lived in a houseboat right down from two-way, 55-gallon drums, metal drums in the old days, a houseboat. And I had a little one-man canoe. And I'd paddle back to the houseboat to see after I had the bottles. Well, every time I get past this place, something in my head, and I didn't know it's so much fear back then. This a long time ago, something in my head said, die here, die here, die here. And I paddled on past it because I'd be low on air, I'd be tired, I'd be hungry. So finally, one day, I leave the bottle place, and I got about half a tank of air left, and paddling along, die here. So I pull up, and then a little canoe, you can't get your gear on in the canoe. You've got to get out and stand in water about waist deep to put your weight back in your tank and all. So I've been diving this place for 2 years. And I get out and I put the stuff on. And I get ready to go in, and it sounds very strange, but I could not get my body to get down into the water. I could not get into the water. It's like the water made a push or something. I don't know. And I thought, wow, I'm not having a heart attack. I'm not having a stroke. I feel good. I could not get in. So I put my gear in the little canoe, paddled back up to the houseboat, and went to bed. I thought about that thing, I thought about that thing. So the next day after work, I ran my gear and go back down there again, put my gear on. This time I know there's nothing wrong with me. I know I'm not sick. So I'm determined. No, I just couldn't get in here. So got back home the third day, same thing. And I'm almost aggravated. I'm thinking, this is crazy. I can't get in the water. So I'm going back at the houseboat. I go across on the hollow to paddle up the other side this time, and I see something floating up in the water. And I paddle up there, and Red Coach or Red Light, I can never remember, it had the seafood house, Red Coach or Light, one of those. He had these big catfish traps in the hollow. Back then they were rebar, welded rebar, and they were the old metal chicken wire, the old galvanized metal chicken wire. And them things were big, they were big. And them traps were weighted to sink to the bottom because catfish is a bottom feeder. Okay? And I paddled up that thing, and a big bull shark had tore his way up into that trap to get either the bait or the catfish up in that trap. And he was so big, when he floated that catfish trap. And I said, oh, that's right. And usually it's not one, usually it might be several of those sharks. And that 3 days that I couldn't get no one, I said, oh. Yeah. A different
How do you spell that?
Oh, yeah, sorry, but thank
Time to
you.
go home, isn't it?
Yeah, time to go home. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming.
Joe can count high enough.
Yeah. No, I got you. I got it. Yes.
I'd like to,
Thank you very much.
our historical society has a meeting this next Thursday. And the fort, and Mr. Lucky Lowe will be talking history.
About the cannon, about
What he's found in the river.
the experience of finding the cannon. That's right. So if y'all come to 14 George.
Wait, the coming Thursday.
Thank you.
Doing this.